Hello, is that you?
There, I think I got it. What is that? Sweet. What are you working on?
I just remotored and installed a decoder in this little brass engine for a guy. Now just working out a couple little programming bugs in it.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a really embarrassing question. It's embarrassing for me to ask it. It's not embarrassing for you to hear it. You're a big guy with big hands. Like, don't you find it hard with your hands working on small stuff?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That's it's crazy because I end up just the lightest touch, man. Like I just very gently, the very tips of my fingertips is all I really use. But I was actually thinking about that yesterday when I was messing around with soldering a really tiny LED to some magnet wire, and I was like, it should be physically impossible that I can do this, but somehow I get lucky.
Yeah, well, and I think it's a lot to do with your understanding of what it is you're doing. I think that has a lot to do with it. You know, like if you understand what you're doing, I think you can control your touch. I mean, look what they do in surgery these days. Guys have to have incredibly delicate touch.
Yeah, I almost wish I kind of would have spent the time and maybe gone that route, but maybe not. Probably better I didn't.
Well, you're doing okay. I think you're adding a lot to the world where you are. So anyways, Adam, everybody in the AML Nation is eventually going to be drafted into the AML Army, I think, in order to help everybody get through the day. So this is going to be unedited. So be careful what you say. If I cough, I push the microphone away. I don't listen. So usually the way I do these is I record these, like later today, we're going to be talking to George Bogatuk, and that's an actual episode, which we played probably towards the end of June. So those episodes, I actually, when I do them, we record them, and then I'll play them back. And, any sounds or I want to add or somebody's making noise or whatever, I make notes and I fix them up so they're a lot better. But these, nothing. I talk to the person.
Nothing.
I talk to the person, and I don't even listen to it. You'll hear it. When you hear it, I'll hear it. So we have to, you and I got to be careful because we have a tendency to use colorful language when we're talking to each other, not on the air.
All right. Well, I'll put the crayons away.
So all right, for everybody that doesn't remember, Adam is a conductor on the California Zephyr from Salt Lake City to Grand Junction, Colorado in one direction, and Salt Lake City to Winnemucca, Nevada in the other direction. Are you still working?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And how's that going?
Man, it's I'm caught right in the middle of wondering if it's a good idea that I'm working because I still have an income, or is it a bad idea because Lord knows what I'm bringing home. Yeah.
Is there a lot of people on the train?
My last train only had 20 people on it, so I felt pretty good about that. But their bright idea is shortening the train down, taking cars out, and I look at it like, well, that just condenses the people even more.
Exactly.
So I don't get it. I mean, I can see it on a financial standpoint to, it costs less to run smaller trains, but it also, what is the real cost there?
Does it cost less from a fuel standpoint, you think?
Yeah. They say it does. I mean, they've cut our train pretty significantly. The baggage car is gone. We're running with one sleeper, a lounge car, a dining car, and 2 coaches. So it's a pretty small train.
And do they still serve up food and stuff?
Yeah, they're serving, they're using the diner, but they're not. Usually they practice what they call community seating, and they definitely don't do that now. They stagger everybody throughout the diner.
Oh, yeah, community seating where you have to sit with people you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to sit with anybody I don't know. I don't. Yeah, I don't want to be going into the car. I used to go to a hotel resort, and they did this community seating where people would sit. They'd have 12 people at a table, and I'd be like, I don't want to sit with other people. I don't know them.
Yeah. Family style.
Yeah, family style. I don't want to be your family.
No, I don't even want to sit with my own family.
So are they giving you any kind of, like, are they paying you extra, or are they just saying have at it, or what?
No, they're not paying us any extra. I mean, a lot of people think they should, but I even have my doubts, my reasoning on that too. I don't really think they should be paying us any extra. I'm just glad that they're willing to pay us, but on like I said, it's just such a battle of good and bad.
Yeah.
It's like, this side it's good, but on this side it's bad. I just, and I think that I'm probably one of the vast majority. I would think that thought this was just all kind of dumb at first, and like, whatever, blah blah blah. This isn't going to affect me. This is dumb. I can't believe that everybody's freaking out, to all of a sudden one day going, oh my God, we're going to all die.
Yeah.
I mean, especially like my youngest daughter has a compromised respiratory system just because she was a premature. And I mean, it's not horrible. It's not like anything super serious, because she's growing out of it, but she catches respiratory illnesses faster than most people. It's like the change of weather causes her to have like a really, really raspy, croupy cough.
Okay.
For a day or two, and then she gets out of it. But that's really the only thing that happens now. But, just knowing that, it's like in the back of your mind, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like, that's the last thing I could ever even imagine, is having one of the kids sick. And so I remember the other day I was texting Jenny. It's like, man, I'm sitting in a hotel, which is even better, because you're just sitting in a hotel with God knows who's in the hotel,
right.
and where you're going and what's going on. The whole city's shut down. There's nothing to do. It's hard to get food. And there I am sitting there doing nothing but watching YouTube videos on the virus and freaking out. And then all of a sudden realizing, I don't know if it's a good idea if I even go home. It's like, what do I do? Should I go home? What do I do? Because I'm obviously going to have to come back out. And so I'm just like, I'm almost like a ticking time bomb every time I come home. And I just don't want to have that one time where the time runs out and explodes and everybody gets sick. And it's just, I don't know what to do, So I've been trying to really, I'm coming home, but I super clean and keeping myself away from everybody as much as possible, and locking myself down here in the shop and getting projects done. But still, man, I just, like I said, at first I just didn't think it was going to be all that big of a deal, but then all of a sudden I realized how big of a deal this really is, and it just, I can't wait for it to be over. I hope everybody can actually just come together and actually seriously practice this social distancing and do what they need to do to do their part to help contain this thing, so we can get it over with faster.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Like, I think on the one hand, you don't want to overreact and be super scared and be going, oh my God, it's going to kill everybody in the country. But I think it's serious enough that everybody's got to be very conscientious. Like, I was like you when it first started. I'm kind of like, really? Do we have to do this? Like, can we not just all kind of calm down and take a break here?
Right.
And now here I am, a couple of weeks into it, and I'm thinking, okay, yeah, I think I'm starting to get this, is that we need to be very, very conscientious. But it's that fine line, because it's right. It's like, okay, not everybody's getting sick. Hardly anybody's getting sick in the overall scheme of things. But in fact, people are getting sick. So you don't want to be the one that brings it home to your daughter because you just happen to be the one that got it.
Yeah. And I mean, to me, it's even more than just, my situation and anybody else that's, helping other people travel. It's like, we're traveling. It's not just like a select group of a demographic. It's not just like my community, taking the chances in my own community is one thing, it's still super serious because you never know who or where, what or when, but now I'm introducing all these people from all over the country that are going from point A to point B that Lord knows where they've been, it's like, and there's a part of me that hates it because I am a super social person, and to not be able to go talk to people and always have the eye on somebody wondering where they've been and what they're bringing in contact to you. I hate it because it's just, I don't like that judging. I don't like having to judge people, and I don't think that, I am judging people because I think that everybody has it, and I have to think that way because that's the only way that I'm going to avoid it, and I also have to think that I have it because I don't know if I do, and I'm not going to know if I do for 5 to 7 days, so I also have to be like, okay, how do I keep other people from coming in contact with me? It's not just me coming in contact with other people. I don't want people that come into contact with me either. So it's a horrible thing, man.
Yeah, that's we interviewed Tracy Boyd a few days ago, and she decided she couldn't go home to where her she lives on a farm where her mother is, and she decided her stepdad has some heart conditions, and so she decided she didn't want to go there, and she didn't want to go to her daughter's place where her grandson was. So so she decided she'd just work. And she's a flight attendant with Southwest Airlines, so she decided she'd just work. Well, after 6 days, she was just about done because she's spending every friggin' day, and the plane's going up and down 3 times a day, and there's a pile of new people get on the plane. I mean, there's only maybe some of the planes only had 20 or 30 people on it, but every time 20 or 30 different people would get on a plane, and she'd go again, and it's like, I don't think what people realize is people in your position or her position. And then I have a story about Dave Abeley's. I don't think people realize the stress that you guys are under, because it's pretty easy for me, right? I shut my business down, which I didn't enjoy, because I would say right now there's at least a 25 to 30% chance it'll never open again, depending on how long this goes. And I got 8 employees that are out of work now, and hopefully they'll get their jobs back. But so I shut my business down, and I live in a nice neighborhood, so I just go out and I walk around, and then I have this where I can just irritate the people and say, hey, you're being drafted into the AML Army. So
right,
the days aren't that hard for me to fill in, so I can do this for a month or 2 or whatever it has to be. But I think it really strikes me, like you and Tracy and Dave Abeley's and these people that are required to work, I think the stress is way more than anybody realizes.
I'm usually, I'm pretty chill. Like, I'm really, really relaxed guy. Not much really gets to me. And this has definitely stressed me out, like, because there's no real answer. Everybody knows what they need to, or everybody assumes what they should do or should. And not a lot of people are doing it, or they're not taking it seriously, and you're fighting that. And as well as just the unknown, it's one thing to be able to avoid something that you can see, but to have to try to avoid something that you can't see. And this invisible demon is keeping you away from people you love, people, people you care about, and it's seriously affecting people. It just, man, I think everybody should be stressed out. I can't imagine, everybody not, coming home and not being able to go to work and not being able to, do the things they need to do to survive, and not knowing where or how things are going to be. This is just a tough time for everybody, and I really feel for people. And it just, who saw this coming?
Yeah, exactly. How could anybody? It's bizarre. It's just bizarre where the position we've all been thrown into. Like, I never would have thought in a million years I'd start pumping out podcasts every single day, but
Yeah, but God bless you, because you're keeping a lot of people sane. Even me, I've listened to more of these. I've listened to every podcast, by the way, and I have listened to a few of them twice. And I've actually listened to a lot of them in the last week, just because it really does like create an escape, being able to just sit down here and work on models and listen to the podcast. So I'm super grateful for that. Grateful for you and grateful for everybody that is involved. But this, I mean, here in Utah, it's been really crazy the last couple months. I mean, I started out this year with my flooded basement.
Oh, yeah, right.
And then, and then as soon as that started winding down, this virus hit, and right in the midst of the virus, we had earthquakes. We just had another one today.
Really?
Well, I guess they're aftershocks, but we're still getting them.
How bad was the first one?
The first earthquake was a 5.7.
Really?
And then it just, the aftershocks have been between, in the 3s and 4s. We ended up getting they'd reclassified one of the aftershocks as another earthquake, and it rocked at 4.8, I believe.
Wow.
And, but we've been, just in those 2 days, we had over 30 of them that you could feel, in the 3s. And, today we had 2 more this morning at, in the high 3s. So it's so not only there's 2 things that we can't see, don't know when it's going to strike, and they're coming around us right now, and it's just like, oh my gosh, dude, where do we go? What do we do? Well, I guess this is it,
Give everybody a big thumbs up there, Adam. I'm going to take your picture. There you go, buddy. Perfect. Yeah. So, and was there any actual damage anywhere around from the first one?
Yeah, the city of Magna it's west of Salt Lake. It's actually right by the airport, where the epicenter of the big one was. The big one that we had is, it was just west of the airport, and it shut it down because it did quite a bit of damage to the airport itself. And the city of Magna, although not the prettiest city in Utah, is one of the older ones, and it just completely rocked the downtown of that city.
Really?
That quite a bit of building damage and such. And I know a couple of the housing communities around had some of the houses knocked off their foundations. And there's quite a bit of damage,
And that didn't even become a news story because of all this other stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It didn't really go anywhere because it was, who's going to pay attention to that? Everybody's so focused on this. And it's kind of a local thing, but we should care about it more locally than, nationally. But even at that, that's the other sad casualty of this is all these other big news stories that should be, on people's minds and that are pretty serious are taking a back seat to all this. There's a lot of things happening in the world right now that have kind of been forgotten about because of this. The world's never going to be the same again. This is going to change things forever. More than likely for the good, but there's going to be things that used to be normal that aren't normal anymore.
No, I don't. I've heard a couple of people say that, and I'm not so sure. I think from this we can kind of return to our life. Hopefully people will realize that there was a bit too much sensationalism and too much, and if we'd all kind of pulled together right out of the box. If we just shut everything down for 3 weeks or whatever, completely shut everything down, yeah, I think we would have, skated through this relatively easily compared to what we're doing now. And
I think it was possible. I think being able to get through this in a controlled manner is definitely possible. But I think that there's just so much unknown and craziest and spur of the moment nowisms, yeah, that people lost it. Yeah. It was, and I was looking just the grocery buying, for example. I was looking at one map on obviously the internet, so who knows how true it is, but I can attest that it was pretty ridiculous here. They're showing Utah as on a percentage of buying stuff was at like 240%, where the average place in the nation was around 60 to 80% above normal. Yeah. This place was nuts, man. Nuts. I think if you actually really looked into the news of grocery hoarding or toilet paper hoarding or whatever, Utah's up there. I bet you most of these memes, most of these little jokes on Facebook, most of it probably came from Utah because these people went ballistic. Yeah. But I don't blame them either. We had an earthquake in the middle of it,
that's the problem. Yeah. Like I was I had flown to Florida on March the 6th, and then I realized, I had to leave there, and about 3 days before I left, I was in the grocery store just at the start of the madness, and two guys pulled guns on each other in the meat department, and I'm like, okay, I think I'm out of here. I'm Canadian. We don't do guns. Come on.
Right.
Like,
the most ironic part is I hadn't, I know this is going to shock a few people, but I hadn't had a Costco card in probably 3 or 4 years, and we finally decided, I bet you it was mid-February. We ought to get a Costco card again. And we went down there and got our Costco card, got our pictures taken and all that, and that was the last time we've been to Costco. We haven't been back, and I don't plan on going back. So that's the Mecca.
That's a Mecca. Of nuttiness.
Oh my goodness! Fortunately, I've been able to. We've been fortunate. Like we've been okay.
Yeah.
It's like we haven't freaked out. I don't think we've bought any more toilet paper than we normally do. I know maybe even less. I've got this new cool bidet.
Yeah, that's all the rage in the AML world is people talking about Adam's bidet. And I'm like, here's my question for you. See, this is where you and I will always be best pals, but this is where I think I don't. You're younger than me, and I enjoy that. Actually, I enjoy the younger, and I don't call them generation. I enjoy people in their 30s and 40s and 20s. I pride myself on that, actually. But seriously, your basement floods, and then you install something that fires water all over the place?
Yeah, it seemed like a good idea. I've got really awesome plumbing now. I mean, I know for a fact that our pipes are clear from here to the street.
Yeah.
I've had them scoped twice.
Yeah? Okay, cool. And is that just some sort of an add-on to a toilet? See, here's how dumb I am. I thought bidets only came as a bidet. I didn't realize you could add it to a standard toilet.
It's 2020, man. You can do anything. I agree with you. I always thought it was a separate, appliance, in your bathroom. And I was always like, man, you got to have a pretty big bathroom to have two toilets next to each other.
Yeah.
Or two thrones, but yeah, it's just a little add-on deal. I mean, it's pretty nifty, and I can't imagine. I look at it now and it's like, God, why would anybody have a whole other throne just for this? You can just bolt this thing on together. And I kind of wishing that I would have invented the thing,
like you can't drill into porcelain. So how does it attach to the toilet?
Your toilet seat, you just pop the toilet seat off and it slides underneath. It pretty much just sandwiches between the porcelain and the toilet seat,
right?
On the back, in the back. And
what holds it? What holds it in place?
Well, the toilet seat, like the same thing that holds the toilet seat in place.
Okay. All right. There's not is there some sort of a clamp or something?
Oh, you're broke up.
Is there a clamp or something?
Well, it's the same hardware that's on the toilet. So all I had to do is just your vocal is completely out. Yeah.
All right. Let me see.
Like I'm hearing just stuttering every couple of letters.
How about now?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
Not now.
Not now. Now you can hear me.
I can.
I wonder if it's
I can hear you. Like I said, I'm just like half of every word. I mean, I says I have full internet, but we also have every school kid in the world on the internet right now. So.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
All right. See, this is going to be a classic of why it's not edited. This is all staying into the podcast, and people are just going to have to deal with it. That's what happens in emergency
this is live.
Yeah, in emergency times, you got to take the podcast the way it comes if you want to hear it.
Yeah, hey, it's the apocalypse, man. We're lucky to be on the air.
That's right. It's the apocalypse. You're going
to end up having to have an emergency broadcast system off of this thing.
It's the model railroading zombie apocalyptic podcast. So, okay, my question is, does it bolt on or does it clamp onto the side of the bowl or something?
No, it's sandwiched on. There's no hardware. You just use the same hardware that's on the toilet. So
All
like the
right.
little stud bolts that are on the backside that hold
Yeah.
your toilet seat on.
Yeah.
All I had to do is just like raise those up a little bit because there's an adjustment on those.
Yeah.
And it just slides. You take the toilet seat off, put that on, put the toilet seat back on, and clamp it all back down together. So and it just sits there. So I mean, it's just in between your toilet seat and your toilet bowl.
Okay. All right. Is this not a fair statement? Are all of our private conversations or our conversations that are not recorded usually deteriorate into me yelling at you?
Every single one of them.
Because
like
I'm. Go ahead.
Oh, I was at one time. I didn't know who I wanted to get yelled at more today. Should I call my dad or should I call Lionel?
Yeah. All right. What are you working on?
Oh man, I've got about 8 steam locomotives right here that I'm doing. That I have painted now. Just finalizing some DCC installs.
And so you got 8 locomotives. You're painting them, and you got that beautiful bench there.
Sorry, there's 11 of them here.
11 of them. Are these all from other people, or are some of these yours?
Every one of these is somebody else's. Like I'm hoping to get this one. One of them, there's 2, 4, 6, 7 of them are one guy, and I'm hoping to get these out the first of next week back to him.
So he sent them to you to get them painted and
yeah,
and redone and refurbished kind of thing.
Yep, they're all brass. Most of them, there's some of them that are newer brass, but others are some of the older production. But I have repainted all of them, added a bunch of details to make them specific to specific locomotives. I've built a few parts for a couple of them to kind of change them up a little bit with my new trusty machines. And then painted them, weathered them, put lights in them, sound, all the bells and whistles, and they'll be boxed up and headed back.
Right. And so these people mostly find you off your Facebook page, Prospector Models?
Yeah, pretty much all of them. A lot of them, I channel everybody there, but a lot of them find me off of other groups too. A lot of brass repair groups, a lot of Rio Grande specific groups. So it's been nice. Lately I've been able to do a lot more of just Rio Grande stuff because one, I love it. I know it pretty well. I don't have to do a lot of research on paint jobs and, specific details on models and stuff because I've kind of been researching that stuff most of my life. But they've been sending me a lot of work, and it's been fun. Sometimes I think, man, you know how much of my own stuff I would have done right now if I wasn't doing stuff for other people. But then again, it's this pays for my end of the hobby too. So it's been fun.
So I'm just looking at your Facebook page, Prospector Models, and you got a post here about a friend named Jim that passed away. Who is he?
He's just a guy that I met on the internet years ago, and I believe he lived down in Florida, and he got a brain cancer last year, just kind of out of the blue, and lasted a year. I know earlier this year I started seeing him post about, medicine's not working and stuff and having to go in. And then all of a sudden I saw that he got admitted to hospice and he, just passed away. It was super sad. He's a really nice guy. Unfortunately, I was never able to actually meet him in person, but we had a lot of conversations over the internet about just basic model building and such. He had, I can't remember, I think his company was called Medford Trains, I want to say, but he did a lot of laser cut kits and such. I think it was Medford Trains. But yeah, just a great guy, man. Like it was a pleasure knowing him. He was an awesome guy. He was good at what he did. Just a gentleman, just a nice guy.
And another somebody else you met. I'm telling you, this hobby is going to explode in ways we can't possibly imagine. The connection we're making with so many people is just, it's something that has never happened before. It's exponential, just like dealing with the COVID-19. The hobby's growing so fast, and the connections are so fast.
Well, I wonder how many people are going to join this hobby now that they're stuck in their basement.
That's the thing. Yeah. Going through YouTube and stuff like that, and finding stuff on YouTube and be sucked into the hobby. What's this here? Spent the evening with the greatest people, taking my son to a layout. My dad was awesome experience. So many memories with Steve. I'm grateful for every single one of them. What's that? It's a picture of you and our buddy Chris Brimley and another gentleman. Who's that?
That man's name is Steve Belmont, and he has been a close family friend for my whole life. Both my dads knew him. My biological dad knew him, and my stepdad knew him. My biological dad, they were both into model trains, but the relationship between Steve and my dad, my real dad, he was different because my dad, as well as in the hobby, he also had a radio show when I was young. On a big band channel, on an AM radio show, and Steve used to listen to it all the time. My dad had a game that he played all the time called Mr. Trivia. So he always had all these cool, people would call in and guess his questions and stuff. It was always, just kind of that dumb trivia that he'd ask. And
that's time out here. Time out. Time out. Give me a break here, will you? Come on.
I'm trying.
I'm talking to a lot of people. So your dad, your biological dad, who you always got along with, right? There was never any animosity or anything, right?
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I'm just trying to remember because I know you get along very well with your stepdad too, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah. I mean, my real dad, he was a different dude. He was a Vietnam vet, and a lot of things went undiagnosed in those days,
Absolutely.
So I had a little rougher growing up than most, but I got through it, and it kind of made me who I am today. So I'm grateful for even the bad experiences.
Sure, and I don't need you to tell me anything that was hard for you. That's not. I'm just trying to. So is it your biological dad that had the radio show?
Yeah. Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
And on big band music.
AM, was it Kovo AM 960, I believe.
I think I'm going to have to write up some sort of questionnaire that everybody that's a regular on the on the podcast has to fill out, so I know where everybody is. Are you? While we're talking, are you? Oh yeah, you're on the big page, aren't you? You're on the crew page, aren't you?
I am. I sure am.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Because we don't want to miss out on that.
Yeah.
You strike me as a big band guy for sure.
I love it because it's, and my dad wasn't really a big band guy. That's just where he landed. He had a little part-time night gig that he had fun with. It was just more of a hobby for him.
Right.
My dad liked all kinds of music. It was weird, but he just ended up at the big band thing. So I actually was really exposed to that because he was there all the time. But one of the coolest experiences, go back to Steve Belmont and that layout, is every time we'd go there when I was a kid. I mean, this story gets really cool. He was every time we'd go into the railroad, he was always playing big band music, and his railroad was set in the 50s, and it was just the coolest experience, Yeah. And it was just I don't know. I mean, seeing that and relating music to model railroading and the era, and it was just like a full on experience. And I've never forgot that. That's always been such a huge thing for me. Like I find myself, I'll throw on, on Pandora or something, the Glenn Miller radio or something while I'm working on trains and stuff, because that literally just feels like it goes together, to me anyhow.
Yeah. I get that.
The best part about Steve, aside from a million other things, is he worked for a vending company. He was the candy man. He was known as the candy man. And all through junior high and high school, I knew what time he came and serviced the vending machines, because we lived local to us. So he'd service the the vending machines at my school, and I'd know what time he was coming. So I'd always be able to like, hey, I need to go to the bathroom. I need a hall pass right around 9:30, 9:45. And I'd always come back loaded up with, gum and a candy bar or two. I mean, it was awesome. It was so cool.
And how long do you think he's had this layout?
We were talking about this the other day, and he started that layout in 1980.
So it's 40 years old. 40 years old.
Yeah, that layout is 40 years old.
And probably runs pretty darn good.
It does. It really does. They have a blast on it, he has standard gauge and narrow gauge. It's all HO13. It's all Rio Grande. He's modeled a little bit of everything on the Rio Grande. He's a native Utahn, so he really loves the Utah history and stuff. Not only that, but him and his son are probably some of the most well-renowned Rio Grande photographers, of the modern time and from the 70s on. You can't find a photo anywhere that doesn't have James Belmont's name on it or Steve Belmont's name on it. It's almost impossible.
So is this a picture of you and Steve in the layout? Or there's a picture of you. It says, I am 23 years old in the same spot. A year older than Mason is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's, no, that's my dad. That's Greg, my stepdad.
That's your stepdad.
That's my stepdad there.
Oh, okay.
But that's me. I think I figured out I was about 15, 16 years old in that photo. Okay. But yeah, that's the other cool thing about Steve is I think a lot of people do this. They always sign a book when you come to a railroad. It doesn't matter if you come to that railroad twice in the same day, you sign the book, and he always gets a photo with everybody that ever comes over right in that same spot.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So there's kind of there's an age progression of me in that same spot. And it's pretty cool. I don't know, man. I love that guy. He's been a huge influence in me in my life and just in the hobby of railroading, in real railroading, and just as a person, he's just a good dude.
I'm looking at this now, and this is so cool what I'm looking at right now, and I'm thinking to myself, and just as you say it, I'm thinking this community of model railroading is something that, man, that's why I'm so excited about social media, and it is so exciting to have this AML Nation, because I think we are going to tap into something that we could have never imagined. For the people that are the people that are discovering the hobby in their as kids and in their teens and early 20s, man, the future that they've got ahead of them, I think, is spectacular.
Oh man, it's such a welcoming hobby for the most part that there's a place for everybody. I have literally seen this in a couple people I know. This hobby saved their life because they just kind of grew up. I'm thinking of two friends of mine that in particular that just, had a little bit harder life growing up and wasn't socially accepted and, throughout school and such. And then right at the right time in their life, man, before, things went horribly wrong, they found this hobby and they were accepted into this little group of people that loved the same thing. And it literally saved their life.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I cut you off. You go ahead.
Oh, no, it's okay.
No, I insist. You know what? I would be better at this if I wasn't always so excited when we get into these conversations. But when you were saying that, I interviewed Dave Owens, me and Kaylee and Bruce, the moderately agitated mail boy, and Kaylee Zhang, the woman that single-handedly builds turbine engines and then installs them on Airbus A320s. We were interviewing Dave Owens, who he's the guy that organizes, along with his crew, the NERPM event, the New England Rail RPM event. And he was talking about how I asked him the question, we did the Kelly questions, and I said, who's your most influential model railroader? And he talked about a guy, he was 10 or 12, and there was a kid down the street that was 14 or 15, and Dave's first model train was the Tyco Chattanooga Choo Choo that ran really crappy and didn't stay on the tracks. But this guy down the street, who's a couple years older than him, was into model railroading and knew about Athearn and better tracks. And when we asked him the question, he said it was this other kid that kept him in the hobby. And that's just the way you were talking about this, Steve. It kind of gave me the same warm, fuzzy feeling of the connections that we make through this hobby. I mean, look at you and I.
Yeah.
You and I have never face to face met each other, and we're best buds.
I would say so.
Yeah. You kind of hesitated there.
Well, I thought there was a time that you had an opportunity to come see me, but you didn't. But I wasn't going to bring that up until you asked.
You know what? The first thing I'm going to do when this is all over, I'm going to find a Southwest flight that Tracy Boyd's on, and I'm going to head towards Salt Lake City. I'm going to head towards a lot of places.
I can't wait.
Okay. So, anyways, yeah. So, all right. I'm going to look at some of your people need to go to Prospector Models. This is a good page. And the thing of it is too, you're like Spoon. I mean, you're a full-time railroader. There are a lot more full-time railroaders that like this hobby than anybody possibly realizes. It used to be a curse, and now it's not.
Oh yeah, I remember at a time where you just, and I almost wonder now if it really was, or if it wasn't a curse. Because I'm almost positive that the people you were scared of talking about this with probably did it too.
Yeah, that's probably a good point.
And it just was socially unacceptable to be a railroader and play with big trains for money and little trains that cost money. It just didn't make sense. But now, it's
man, I'm looking at this model. You say this is from February 25th, so it's about a month ago. Just acquired WSC C25. These models look goofy, but this is a beautiful model. Holy mackerel!
Yeah, those.
What is
that's
that?
It's a
WSC. What's that?
West Side Models. It's a importer,
right,
of brass. West Side was bought by Precision Scale in the early '80s, or late '70s, early '80s. And the C25 was an odd locomotive on the Rio Grande. It had originally was owned by the Florence and Cripple Creek, and when they went out, the Rio Grande bought all their locomotives. And so it was never really originally a Rio Grande locomotive, but it was obtained by the Rio Grande, and there was only one of them, and it was number 375. So Westside Models brought this model out as the only time that's ever been produced in HON3, and it sits too high. And unfortunately, Roundhouse Models, they produced plastic kits in HON3, copied it. So they made an exact copy of it. You could buy a white metal and plastic kit of that locomotive, and it also sits too high because they copied the exact model, the brass model. So I don't know of anybody that's ever actually corrected this. My stepdad, my dad says he has, but I don't believe him. Because he didn't offer to help me once when I set out to do this. But I decided that I wanted to make this thing right. I wanted to make it look right. I wanted to make it, the way it should be. So I took the thing apart, started seeing what it was going to take to cut this thing down and make it still run, and I did it.
You did it.
I did it, and it's awesome.
Is this the finished version then?
Which one are you? One of the pictures. I think I posted a picture of it. There's a photo of it. I think I took it and posted it, but I put a photo of it at Steve Belmont's house because he has one. That's
I'm going to read this. It says, "Well, I was close by eyeballing. It still looked a bit off, so I measured it. The prototype sits 12 feet 7 inches railhead to the top of the stack. I'm currently at 13 feet 5 inches. Must have been 15 to begin with. I need to figure out a way to drop it a bit more." So did you drop it a bit more?
I did. And let me see here.
That's absolutely
I'm calling that good. Yep, there it is. On February 26th, I posted a photo of it. The real one's underneath it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I reassembled it to make sure it would operate smoothly. It's now correct height, 12.7, and the cylinders in the correct location.
Okay,
yeah. So when
so how did you do that?
I think there's a video of me when I took it apart and I'm milling the frame. It says on February 26th, milling the frame on the C25. And I took that in slow motion too, so you can see the chips flying really slow. It's pretty cool.
You know what? I think this is a fair statement. In general, you just irritate the living crap out of me.
I think that's good.
You're so friggin' talented. I feel like I'm like the most next to you. I'd be like the goofy kid in school. So here it is on your milling machine, and you're taking it down even more. Yeah, and it is in slow motion where you can see the chips flying.
Kind of cool, huh?
Yeah.
See, that's I learned how to do that when I got an Apple phone.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
I'm Apple. Cool. You're Apple all the way. I'm Apple all the way. Well, this is a really cool video. Man, oh man, I should get you to send that to me and we put it on the website.
Yeah, it was crazy because that model itself was like, to get it to go lower, I ended up taking it down more, but what happened was the whole steam chest sat down too far, which put the cylinders down too far. So I ended up having to cut the steam chest, which is on a, even in real life, the cylinders bolt to the steam chest, and that bolts underneath the smoke box. But on a model, most of the time, the whole thing is one piece. So what I ended up having to do was I cut both cylinders off the actual chest itself, and then mounted them higher on the steam chest. So brought the cylinders back up, so the geometry of the linkage and the valve motion and everything stayed the same. So it actually worked without binding up, and it fit. I mean, it worked out. So visually, the thing looks exactly like the real one.
And when you're doing all this, do you make plans, or you just kind of have at it as you think to yourself, okay, I got to do this, this, and this?
Well, I'm going to do another one and actually write it down this time. So I don't think I really need to, but I'm going to, just in case I ever want to tell somebody else how to do it. Because I'd prefer to just, if somebody wanted one, just, hey, send it to me and I'll do it for you. But if somebody felt like they could do it or wanted to do it or wanted to try it anyway, I'd love to be able to just say, hey, this is what you got to do, and this is the steps you got to do it in. Good luck.
I think I'm going to start looking for an O-scale brass shay that you can paint and do all your stuff to. And then that's what if I build another layout, it'll be like 2 feet by 10 foot O-scale with an O-scale shay. That would be so cool.
Go check out brasstrains.com. That's where I'd recommend buying.
Yeah. Yeah, because really all you need is the unit, and then you can build it from there, right?
Yeah, I can make it whatever you want.
Make it run good and make it purty. I would
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Man, that is cool. That's what I'm going to do. You have steered me at this moment. You have made me decide what I'm going to have. If I ever build another layout, it'll be about a 2 foot by 10 foot O-scale layout. I'll have one RS1 and an O-scale shay on it. Those would be my 2 locomotives.
You know how cool that would be, and I think you ought to get on it right now.
Yeah, that would be very cool, and just to build it, to make the scenes and to do the photography and all that.
Oh yeah, right. I mean, I don't see a reason why you haven't started already.
Well, because I'm talking to you right now. I'm trying to bring the whole. I'm trying to create. I'm trying to grow the AML nation so that every model railroader in the world feels like they're pals with everybody else. That's the coolest part.
Well, if you're doing a good enough job at that, let's see what you can build now.
That is.
I've seen your layout. I've seen your old layout. Well, photos of it and everything, and I think you're doing the nation an injustice by not creating another one.
Well, thank you very much. I love you too, man. All right, so you're going to build an around the wall kind of an L-shaped, smaller ON3 or HON3 layout.
Yeah. I have great plans for a big one. A really
Someday.
big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hopefully sooner than later, but let's get the world back on track first. But here is the space I have to do a few things, and I'm just gonna. I picked a couple really cool scenes that will fit in my room that will be able to go into the big layout, so I won't have to. I'm not whatever I'm doing right now isn't just wasted.
Yeah, exactly.
Wasted energy. So yeah, I'm gonna put something together here that will eventually grow into the bigger layout, so I can actually, build and run some of these things now.
All right. Well, I think we're drawn to 52 minutes. We chewed up, buddy, and you and I could chew up another couple hours. And we talked about we covered a lot of ground. And tonight, and then 5 hours from now, 8 hours, 6.5 hours from now, we're going to talk to George Bogatuk from Soundtracks.
I can't wait. He's become a really good friend of mine. I've talked to him quite a bit. Him and a lot of the guys down there. Josh Levine, the tech guy at Soundtracks. I was super stoked when I met them last year at the Nationals, and then when they came to my house, I thought that was even cooler. And now I talk to them fairly frequently. So it's I got Soundtrack certified. I'm a certified installer / dealer, even though I do most of my dealings through Train Life, but I'm set up with them, so it's pretty cool.
How's our buddy Chris Brimley doing through all this mess?
He's doing good. He's been able to stay home and get his house finished. I don't know why he decided to tear his house apart, but he did. Maybe he saw me doing it and decided, hey man, that's a good idea. And I said, hey, I didn't want to though.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
he remodeled his house, which looks really cool, and I think he got that wrapped up because of this. But I do know that as of the other day, Train Life had shut down to walk-ins and just doing online stuff. But so they're still going. So if you need anything, go to trainlife.com, pick up what you need.
All right, perfect. All right, so our email address is modeler'slife@gmail.com. Our website is amodeler'slife.com. You go on there, and if you go to the supporting cast part of the crew page, you can read a little bio about Adam right there. And are you ready for the end?
What part of the end?
The first part
of the last one.
First, I should apologize again for my language halfway through the show. I apologize that, but that's Adam's fault because it's the way. Did you ever watch the movie Ted?
Yes. That's a funny story too.
Oh my God. I was looking for something to watch the other day, and I didn't want to get too serious, and I had forgotten how funny that movie is. That movie is if it was you and I hanging out together, that is us. Just a couple of boneheaded guys. I just love that movie.
Can I be the teddy bear?
Yeah, you can be the teddy bear. I just love the way they talk. That's the way guys actually talk.
What's the funny part about that movie, since we have it here and it will never come up in conversation again probably, but I thought when I saw that movie, I'm like, oh, that looks like a great movie. And when it first come out, it was on, I think, the Red Box or one of those rental places. And
right.
So I brought it home, and it has a teddy bear on it. It's got to be good for the kids. Right?
Yeah.
So here I am with Jenny sitting next to me. We're watching this great movie with the kids, and all of a sudden they get into what they're doing, and I'm looking at this. Jenny absolutely loses her mind, and I look over and I'm like, I'm just trying to give these kids an education here. I had no idea, man, and now my kids know way more than they should, and I don't know if that's good or bad, but hell, they're still doing pretty good now. So
I would love to be one of your kids. I think that would be a ride.
Oh my God. Those poor kids.
Yeah. It won't be that long though. It's like my favorite story now. I realize now, I used to say I brought a beautiful bouncing baby boy home, and now I got this guy living in my house. And now my story is I brought home a beautiful bouncing baby boy, and now I got a drinking buddy.
Yeah, and you inspired me. I don't know. Right after I heard you say that the kids were Mason and his cousin were with me, and I took them to. We were in Junction, and I decided to take them down to the bar, the hotel bar, and I even posted a photo on the fans page, I believe, of all of us there.
Yeah.
All of us there. And I said, here I am training my drinking buddy.
And now I think he's going to get married.
Mason?
Like,
oh, your son.
Yeah, my son, yeah.
Oh.
And I'm like, and he's talking about it. The other day we were coming home from our last hockey game until the crap hit the fan, and we're talking, and he goes, yeah, I'd like to have kids. And like, I swerved off the road and went down through the ditch and back up again, and I'm like, who the heck am I talking to?
Right.
And then my next question is, but you're still going to be my drinking buddy, right?
Yeah, because you're drinking buddy.
All right. So are you ready for the end?
Yeah, I'll wing it.
All right. So remember, A Modeler's Life podcast is considered marginally adequate by 6 out of 10
self-quarantined model railroaders.
A Modeler's Life is sponsored by Because I Love Sushi. You could love any old sushi, but would it love you back?
It's another Lincoln Homer.